really care about black culture. You really don't. So don't ask crazy questions. Don't ask if you have to wash your hair. Does it go naturally like that? There's all kind of things that mainly people do who are not black, and they try to, like I say, to pander to black Americans, and they pretend like they want to be on board on the woke express, and they try to ask them all these crazy questions like, do you have to sleep on your side at night, or do you have to sleep with a towel on your head or some type of a rag on your head? How does it frizzy up like that? Do you have to wash it every week? Whatever you want to say, there's always some history on people who are trying to indulge themselves into black culture, and they end up getting themselves in trouble. So stop doing it. So at first, I thought about what IKEA did. Now, I thought when you first heard about this story that they really didn't do any research, but I don't know. I'm not so sure about that. Because back in the day, ladies and gentlemen, watermelon was actually grown by free black slaves. And they actually planted and they grew it and they ate it. And it was a symbol by black free slaves or former slaves who were now free or then free. It was a symbol of their freedom. And so when IKEA probably researched it, they probably said, okay, we know it's probably a racist thing, but if you dig back and you peel back the layers, then it's actually a good thing because it symbolized freedom. But a lot of people don't see it that way because it flipped along the way. And like I said, when you're trying to do good and embed yourself in culture, it's going to backfire on you. It's going to backfire on you. So how the watermelon situation turned racist in a nutshell after the Civil War. Before the Civil War, it was a noble thing for black people to have watermelon. Then after, it kind of changed. White Southerners kind of flip-flopped it. And how it became kind of racist is because it was looked upon as a lazy a food that people would eat, and made them lazy because during the slave times and whatnot, you would be able to eat, but you still had to work. And so if you were eating a watermelon, it was depicted that, well, you cannot work. It's so difficult to eat the watermelon that you cannot work and eat the watermelon simultaneously. So in other words, that made you lazy. And so that's another stereotype that black Americans have, is that they're lazy and unclean and things like that. Back in Egypt in the 1800s, it was mainly, watermelon was basically, eaten by Arabs and Italians. And when Arabs really started to eat the watermelon, the watermelon anyway, was looked upon as a poor man's food because it was like a substitution for a good, solid meal. And certain people would eat the watermelon and they would try to keep other people from looking at them eating it or from getting some of it. And they would do things like turn their body, run around the corner, and eat in private. And the little seeds they would spit on the ground would fill up the streets. And then therefore, that's how the uncleanliness stigma got upon that, along with the laziness. And then that was equated to the black race in the United States. And that is how the watermelon turned from a noble thing from what slaves used to grow and eat to a kind of stereotypic bad thing. And therefore, the stigma stuck to this particular day. Because before this stigma was planted upon black people in this country, everybody was eating watermelons. Kentucky hillbillies, yokels from the Northeast, New Hampshire, Vermont, and even blacks in South Carolina, Southerners, Virginia, Louisiana, North Carolina. You could not tell until it was changed, till it was flip-flop. And it seems as though that when a stigma is put upon someone, they own it instead of going, well, why is this particularly racist? I don't understand this. Because once again, this was a noble, it was a noble deed, a noble job, a noble thing to harvest watermelon. And watermelon is really good. I have an aunt, or I had an aunt, rest her soul. She passed away in 2004. It's my mother's sister. She told me this story one day about watermelon. She was born in 1920, and she worked in the fields with, some of her relatives and her husband. Now, she was married twice. She outlived both of her husbands before she eventually passed away. And she told me that she was working in the field. She probably was like in her late 20s, and she was married at the time, it's her first husband, and she was working and they were working. It was a hot day in Louisiana, and they took a break, and the overseer asked them, did they want some watermelon? They had some nice fresh watermelon. And my aunt told me, she said, I love watermelon. I eat it all the time. At the time, she says, but that particular day, I didn't want any watermelon. And she said her husband, who had been working alongside of her, decided he wanted some watermelon. So he took it upon himself to eat some watermelon. And when he ate some watermelon, he felt sick. And they tried to treat him. And I guess they rushed him to some type of a medical facility or whatever was going on down there back in the 30s or the 40s. And her husband died. And it was attributed to him eating that watermelon. And my aunt, till the day she passed, never ate watermelon. It was just one of those things, right? So that's a crazy type of story. And, I asked her, I said, well, did you think the watermelon killed him? She says, we don't know. But that was the last thing he ate. He was fine before that. And then he ate the watermelon and he died. And then from then on, till she lived till she was 83 years old, she said she never ate watermelon in her life. So that was just a little bitty story. Really had nothing to do with this story I had now. It just came in my mind when I was talking about and hearing about this watermelon case from Ikea. But like I said, it just goes down the lessons of people trying to appease black people in this country. And it always comes from people who are not, they don't really know culture, and they're really not doing the research. And even if they did, because just like I mentioned, I think that, the research that, what I know about watermelon and how it, from its inception and when it first started, it was a noble thing. And I'm quite sure that the people at Ikea, they looked this up too. I made a little joke about the Family Feud thing, but I'm quite sure they looked it up. But once again, it's not going to satisfy them, because they should have known that black people look at watermelon as some type of a black mark, as some type of a bad thing. So you wasn't getting away with it. So in the future, stop talking about black people's hair. Stop asking questions. Stop putting food on the menu or any type of menu that you think is going to make them happy, because they're not. They're going to find a way to ridicule you, because basically they're going to say, you don't know what you're talking about. Now, for 1 minute, I don't think Ikea, their employees, their upper management, their brass, they are not racist. But it doesn't matter. If anyone is perceived, and that is the key word, ladies and gentlemen, perceived. Doesn't matter that you're not. It doesn't matter what you are. If a group of people put it out there that you have wrote something, said something, cooked something, fixed something that they seem as racist, you are indeed a racist. And you are going to have to do backflips. You're going to have to do everything to dig yourself out of that quicksand. Because if they find out and that they have written something that you did, that if they say that it's racist, even though the masses and the masses and the masses don't really agree that it's racist, well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is racist. So you're going to have to do whatever you can to get out of it and make everything better. And in this case, you're going to have to revise that menu, what they already did. You know what? Don't even do it. Just put hamburgers on there. I don't understand it. It's food. It's food. It's soul food. And it happened in Atlanta, right? This is the soul food capital, one of the soul food capitals of the United States, right? What are they complaining about, right? Have you ever been to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport? I must have transferred through there, went through there at least about 60 or 70 times in my life. They have a restaurant in the airport named Pascal's. They have two. They have one in Terminal A and one in Terminal 3, right? It's a soul food restaurant. They sell grits. They sell chicken. They don't sell watermelon, but they sell all the type of soul food. So how come that isn't racist? They're doing that to make money because they know Atlanta is full of black people, and people are coming through that airport, and they are looking for Pascal's. I've been to Pascal's many, many times. My mouth waters for that good food when I get to Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, because I know if I'm coming in on a morning flight, and I'm transferring or something like that, and it's 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, they got some good grits, they got catfish, they got sausages, great food, right? It's not racist. It's a culture food. And if they had watermelon there too, I would have gotten some watermelon too there at some particular time and not had a second thought. I'm not that type of person that's going to, cringe over or be offended because there's some watermelon people that has watermelon. What difference does it make? If you don't want it, don't eat it. It's a food, right? It doesn't matter if you eat it. White people eat watermelon. Black people eat watermelon. I'm quite sure Asian people eat watermelon. I know Hispanic people eat watermelon all the time. So why is it racist? Why is it everything is so doggone sensitive? So my rule, like I said to it, stop pandering. Get off the woke express and get on your own train. Life will be better for you. You won't have to listen to the mob and adhere to the mob because they're just waiting for you to say something that they consider is racist. They're waiting for you to do something. They're waiting for you to do anything that's racist so they can put you on blast. And when they put you on blast, they're going to look like the hero and you're going to look like the villain racist, and you don't want that. So on that note, I am going to end this episode of the Fabulous Forum Factor. I am praying for Ikea. I am praying for anyone like Ikea who wants to call themselves to do a good deed when it comes into the face of racism, okay? Because if that had been Pascal's that done that, nobody would have said a word. But since it was not a place like Pascal's, it wasn't a place like Popeyes, it was Popeye's chicken, nobody would have said a word. If it was Bojangles, nobody would have said a word. So people out there just looking for you to stump your toe on the racism train. And once you do, they got you. So in other words, from now on, just stay out of it. Thank you for listening to the Fabulous Forum Factor. I'm your host, Kenneth Moultrie. Please join me again on another show. Please also use my email as well. It's fabulousforumfactor@gmail.com. Like I said, please follow, subscribe, share. And give me some episode ideas on my artwork on the Spreaker website. You can click on the email icon if you cannot remember, fabulousforumfactor@gmail.com. Once again, click on the email icon, send me an email, comment on the show. Give me an idea. Give me some suggestions for another show coming up in the future. I will appreciate that very, very much. Once again, this is Kenneth Moultrie. Thank you for listening. You all have a great day and take care. Bye.
Were you entertained? Were you informed? If the answer is yes to both, please tune in again next time to the Fabulous Forum Factor and all its facts.